Hey there, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining me on the stream. We have a weather impact alert for tonight. A lot of question marks surrounding the super high end. Will the snow blow, create visibility issues, things like that? Now, the winds, that's a shoo-in. The wind is going to arrive. It's just going to be a matter of how bad things will be. So we do have a winter weather advisory. Northern Iowa up into southern Minnesota. And this is going to be for a myriad of conditions. And there's actually a winter storm warning in there too. Don't I go ahead and pop them all up? Maybe it's not. There, it's starting to populate. So the winter storm warning is in pink, winter weather advisory in purple. We're going to focus into the Iowa portion up through the Minnesota border on kind of what's going on here first and foremost. So as we go to the satellites and the radar picture, we're fresh off a burst of snow over southeast Minnesota. A little bit of some freezing rain in northern Iowa, a few showers traipsing through central Iowa as well, but much of that is just not reaching the ground. What we are is very mild, and I'll show the temperatures in Iowa right now. It's 45 in Des Moines. We have seen those temperatures charge close to 40 degrees up near the Minnesota and Iowa border. I think this really helps our snowpack in just how bad it will be. It's not going to be quite as bad because we're doing so much melting right now that water percolates down into the snow. And the deeper that crust gets, the deeper the crust on top gets, as we do freeze back up for tonight, the stronger it will be. So this is good news in the grand scheme of things. This is getting up to territory that it's tough to find comparables to if you look back in the data. In fact, I've been kind of racking my brain if I've ever seen this much snow on the ground this mild with this strength of wind, and I'm struggling to recall that in my professional career. I think the closest I've seen is kind of a similar situation as far as the snow on the ground with wind to 50 miles per hour, and we saw sporadic areas where the snow was blowing over the road. So safe to say that is likely going to occur. To what extent will it happen at 60 miles per hour? That's getting up into that territory where it's tough to find that balance. And I would lean to the side of caution and say that we should expect blowing snow in rural open areas tonight as that wind does pick up. Up into north central Iowa, that's where those cooler temperatures have been today. That's where the deeper snowpack is. So a little bit easier to be achieved there as that wind does ramp up. But I don't think visibility issues are going to be there. I just don't at this stage. We have been far too warm today. I don't think this snow has enough light airiness density, lighter density to it to be lofted up in the air for prolonged. Now, we'll watch a couple of wraparound snow showers in northern Iowa. That could do it. But I don't think we pick up enough widespread to create too much of an issue there. Okay, let's show you the wind. Wind gusts first. And we're starting to see those winds pick up over northwestern Iowa right now. I've seen out of northern Nebraska, southern and central South Dakota of wind gusts commonly 50 to 60 miles per hour. And so we're already starting to ramp things up there into northwestern Iowa. Okay, snowpack. Let me get to that here real quick. Pardon me while I kind of jockey things around. Okay, now keep in mind, a lot of these numbers are model driven, and we've been doing a fair amount of melting here this evening, going into this afternoon. So these numbers are likely under what is currently shown here. I will say the 5 in Des Moines is an actual measured amount at 6 p.m. So keep that in mind, but we are still melting. What I want you to take away from this is there's a much deeper snowpack north of Highway 30, Highway 20, Highway 18 in north central Iowa. So that snow has a more of a chance to sustain itself through this mild period we are currently in. So when those winds pick up, it's going to create quite the issue for us. Okay, let's talk about the winds here real quick. I'll show you this graph first, and then we'll go through the map version. So we're looking at the strongest of the winds here as we continue on tonight. I'd say 1 through 6 o'clock in the morning is when we're expecting the strongest winds in central Iowa. Latest data suggesting a lot of 50 to 55 miles per hour. I'd still say 60 miles per hour is going to be distinctly possible in the setup that we have. So you see it's a burst of wind, and then it does slowly relent as we go through the day on Wednesday. Let's go through the wind gusts here. Now, regardless if that snow blows around significantly or not, the wind is troublesome enough. It's cause for a weather alert day in and of its own. Take a look at some of these winds, though, running 55, 60 miles per hour here. This is just before 2 o'clock. We'll continue on just before 4 o'clock. 53, 57, very common here as we move through this time period. So this is not only strong enough to create issues just in a travel sense, the high-profile vehicles. This is the territory we start being concerned with maybe power outages, property damage, loose items being strewn. So make sure those are tethered down tonight, securely fastened, garbage cans, things like that. But also to an extent some property damage as well. Anytime we start talking about a severe thunderstorm wind, we're thinking 58 miles per hour and above. So this is going to be a significant burst of wind tonight. By daybreak, we're probably closer to the 35 to 45 mile per hour range, and slowly easing as we continue on. This is noon. And then as we continue on through the afternoon, the end of the afternoon, we're back into the upper 20s and low 30s. So it's still going to be quite breezy. Okay, so the wind is bad enough on its own. So a lot of question marks. The wild card is what I've been billing it surrounding the snowpack. If we do see the blowing snow, it's confined to the surface level and blowing across a highway. I'm not liking the scenario where we do end up seeing the whiteout conditions, as you can kind of see here. In fact, I'm going to be removing this before my 10 o'clock. I don't like the scenario. How do I word this? I like the scenario because it's taking the whiteout conditions really out of play, I think, in the state of our snowpack. Briefly, before we go over and check out the road conditions, I want to show you all the headlines we currently have in place. So there's a winter weather advisory in north central Iowa. That's the counties in purple. Just off to the southwest of that, we have a high wind warning and then a wind advisory. The difference between those latter two, just a couple of miles per hour is all. Okay. Everyone across the state of Iowa is going to be seeing significant wind. Even southwestern Minnesota as well. You're going to be seeing significant wind. The snow generally hugging the Mississippi River Valley is kind of disconnected from where that strongest wind is. So I do think there's going to be a little bit of a buffer zone there, and that's why that winter weather advisory hangs so far to the south out of that snow. I think it's right through here. If we're going to see the blowing snow, that's where the worst of it will end up being. I do want to thank everyone for joining me on this stream, no matter how you're watching. If you do want to jump in on the conversation, you can do so by jumping on the Chris Kubal Meteorologist page and stream. That is where I'm watching out for all the comments. If you have a specific question, please feel free to ask. I will say I'm going to keep this focus to kind of the Iowa and maybe up into southern Minnesota region. As of this point, because that's generally where most of the followers are going to be. Road conditions are poor up into southeast Minnesota, northeastern Iowa. That's where there's been a burst of snow, a couple of inches towards the Rochester area. Past that, there's been some rain and freezing rain. Did hear from Worth County, I believe. So right here earlier this evening that these roads were in really rough shape, mainly secondary roads, I would guess, considering these are green. But they were in very rough shape overall. So there is a little buffer zone of some freezing rain that has been seen here for this evening. I'll go to the satellite and radar picture real quick. Most of that has stayed out of the local 5 area, and anything that we've seen as far as liquid, we're just too warm to see any sort of freezing enhancements of it. Catching this clipper into the dry slot right now as that cold front punches through. You see that snow was definitely heaviest up north of the border, and that mixture, that pink there, that's the freezing rain. And we've since warmed a bit, so that's no longer an issue at this point. Still some of the impacts on the roads, certainly. So, Dave Daniel, how likely is the power to go out in Ames? You know, it's tough to speculate. It truly is. I would say, you know, the chances of it happening are definitely a little bit higher than what they normally would be. Okay. Let me see here. I'm going to try to pull up a couple of plow cams, I think, just see what's going on. This is in northeastern Iowa, and it's really tough to say. We did have, again, Worth County, they shared a picture, and they said, this road is not clear. And it looked, you know, kind of just like this one. They said, this road is not clear. It's a sheet of ice. And so I think you might find that in northern Iowa, maybe just across the border into Minnesota, of some poorer roads. Maybe still some snow-covered roads up here into Minnesota. There's, looks like a good cam. Yeah, that doesn't look fun. I'll just play that video real quick. This would be north of the Rochester area. And you can see, I won't spend too much time on it. Nothing falling from the sky right there, but those roads are certainly worse up into southern Minnesota. Okay, should I show you what the latest data is saying for our wind? Pretty big subsidence here. Oh, that's upper air wind. Okay, I'm going to go back to this one here. Yeah, the latest data, 50 to 60 miles per hour, is still pretty common here. After midnight, we should start tapping in up to that 50 mile per hour plateau, and it'll continue to sink southwards. This is at 3 o'clock, solidly over Iowa. Southwestern Minnesota, you're starting to wrap up with the strongest. But we have a strong gradient set up, so it's kind of squeezing the atmosphere just a little bit there on the backside, and it's going to create that wind. I think the wild card here continues to be the snow. Okay, and just how bad will that snow stir around? And that's just tough to decipher. Our snow is not in a good shape right now, a good position to create a lot of issues from blowing snow, any visibility concerns. It's just not. Now, there will be a couple of snow showers that wrap in on the backside here, see cycling down from Fargo. This is going to continue to cycle down through northern and into eastern Iowa and southern Minnesota. If we have visibility issues, it's going to stem from this activity in the wind. Ooh, I am shiny. Not necessarily from our snowpack. And I think that's a different thought than what I was looking at yesterday. We've just warmed too much prefrontal here. And I was expecting a jump into the 40s this evening. Daytime highs either side of 40, and we pretty much hit that spot on today. But I didn't see this jump up for most of Iowa into the 40s. And that's helping us out with that snowpack at this stage. Where is the front? Okay. Let's look at the wind speeds. All right, so you can kind of see, one second, I need my pointer. You can kind of see here where the wind starts to shift right through here. So that front is just starting to get through Iowa. It is a cold front, but that coldest air is not like rammed right up to the front. It's going to trail just a little bit. So the winds are sustained to 31 in Spencer and gusting 45. So it's getting here, friends. It'll be a difficult drive, that's for sure. I'm going to tone down on my verbiage of whiteouts and things like that. As I mentioned, I don't think we're in the proper state to see that. This map is going to be old, so ignore the drawings on it. But let me move the map around here just a little bit. I'll redraw it. So, ooh, that's a big low. So the cold front kind of going like that. Might not be quite that far south. It's probably right through here based on the wind shift I'm seeing. Okay, got a couple questions. Off of 251-year-old broadcast area, road partially covered but slick, 5 miles north of I-90. 38 for an air temp, winds 10 out of the west. Thanks, Dwight. Appreciate that. Yeah, you had a bout of some rain, and temperature's a little bit cooler than we have back down here in Iowa. So that has certainly made a little bit of difference. So could everyone lose power, Abby asks. No, not everyone's going to lose power, but you certainly do run that risk a little bit more of seeing power outages come up. Let me see if I can pull that up here. There's a good resource out here. Let me get it up and then I will show you. Boy, there's not a lot out in South Dakota. There's not a lot out in Nebraska. They're actually doing pretty well right now. I won't even bother bringing it up because it's a non-issue right now. Yes, there is another cold front coming. In fact, there's another couple of snows coming. Surprise, on Thursday, there's going to be another hit from an Alberta Clipper. This one targets more into Iowa, from north central, northwest Iowa down into eastern Iowa. I think there's still a little bit of wiggle room to be had here, but this data is pointing at a swath of 2 to 5 inches. And then why don't... I haven't seen the latest run, but we'll look at it together. How about that? Let me pull you over. Okay, should be seeing it now. So this is the latest data for that swath on Thursday. And again, it's a good 2 to 5, maybe if we're lucky, you see that purple popping in, maybe 6. And then here we go into Saturday. It looks like another swath of 2 to 5, maybe 6, cutting right through the state. Now, there's certainly some wiggle room to be had, especially looking at that big of a distance. I would not put faith on putting, specific amounts out on Saturday at this point. But that's just looking at the raw data. I don't like giving that for public consumption. By the way, this is the temperature trend. There's that cold front. That second one has that cold front along with it, and it just kills those temperatures. It really takes you down. Sub-zero in there Sunday morning. I think we could be down close to 20 degrees below zero in the Des Moines area. But there's a lot heading in here before we even get there, so I haven't focused in on it all too much. So ensemble forecasting is what I like in the long run. And as we look at the snow, this is 24-hour snow, and this would be for that Saturday burst. Every member but 2 has snow in it. If you know statistics, box and whiskers, we have the boxes completely represented here. So that's the 25th to 75th quartile represented, all solidly measuring snow for the Des Moines area. And then it's also doing that for that Friday as well, but I think that band is more positioned over northern Iowa. A lot of winter here to lead things off. I haven't checked this. Let me check it out. Severe winter weather. I forget. Winter weather seasonal severity index. I believe that's what it is. There it is. Oh, that's winter storm. That's not what I wanted. Accumulated winter. This is the one I wanted. Let me show this to you. It's pretty cool. It kind of quantifies just how bad the winter has been so far. Extreme. So you see that purple there? That denotes extreme. And that's solidly what Des Moines is. Not record setting, mind you, but look at the chart that we've seen so far here compared to, don't get that off the screen. See that? I can't go over it with my mouse because it'll do that pop-up. But you see that black line climbing up there. The higher that goes, the more severe the season has been. Now, of course, it's still very early on. If we saw zero winter from here on out, obviously we'd end up below that red. So this is still very early, very preliminary, but this does kind of quantify just how bad winter has been. And this is, to start winter, a severe winter so far. Not the most severe, cumulative, but severe nonetheless. Let's go up, check out the Rochester area briefly. And so, yeah, climbing that ladder too, into that severe range, not too far off that extreme. It's been a swift jump. This takes into account snow, freezing rain, wind, temperature, and it all just kind of combines it. So, pretty cool little deal. So, yeah, we have more snow on the way. More snow on the way. Watch that wind tonight, friends. I'm going to jump off here and get ready for my 10 o'clock show, but thank you so much for jumping on. No matter how you're watching, we have a multitude of ways that you can watch. We are Iowa Plus, Local 5 app, weareiowa.com, social media, YouTube, Facebook. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you stay safe tonight. Please try to stay off the roads. Even without that blowing snow, the wind is just, it's a booger. But we could see those hazardous conditions pop up if that snow can move around in North Iowa, as we're kind of projecting. So stay safe, everyone. I'm going to wrap this up, and have a good night, will you? We'll see you.